Welcome to another edition of Pittsburgh Sportsline in the BPTV studios. This is our live Tuesday night show since October 11th, 2011, and we're right here in Bethel Park. You can watch us in Bethel on Comcast 7, only in Bethel Park. Verizon 32 is available in Bethel Park, and all the way from Nemacolin up to our guest hometown in Pittsburgh of Wexford on Verizon 32. And I don't know if Ernie's watched it. We'll introduce you to him shortly. I'm Al Levine, the Talking Machine. Chip, the Prophet Hayner. We have Smoking Jim Frazier on the end. And Ernie Kuzner is here. Am I right or not? Did I say your name right? Kushner,
yeah,
I'm sorry.
Course, yeah.
And he was on a show a couple weeks ago. Or was that over a week ago? And we brought you your Atrias.
A week ago Monday.
That's right. You're one of the few to make it this advanced so quickly, because I'm impressed with his talking and factual ability. It's amazing.
No,
and Chip got it. Hey, we just hit a new like on Facebook, 5,305 likes when I last looked today. So thank you for liking us. I'm proud of that, to honor our show and the thousands that are watching us from YouTube to TV. And our TV shows on every Tuesday night through Saturday night, 7 o'clock to 8 p.m. on Verizon 32 or Comcast 7, only in Bethel. And we're on other days during the week. We're on 7 days a week now, so thanks to Dave Cable, the community of Bethel Park, for doing that. Thanks to Carl, coming out of retirement to be on our camera tonight. He's one of the best. Carl, thank you. And Devin Shea, not only is he one of the best cameramen, he's in the control room making sure it all works out. I have a timer here that's accurate tonight, so we'll be in great shape for when the show does end. Hope you're enjoying it. We're going to talk some sports, and you know we have different segments. Our first segment is What's on Your Mind? And we're going to start with Smoking Jim Frazier, who made it fashionably. Oh, it was on time. What's on your mind, Smoking Jim?
Thanks, Al Levine, the Talking Machine. And if you want the green,
It's coming, baby.
you got to see Levine. I feel like a Steeler wide receiver that runs a 4.7.
You don't look like it.
But, hey, what's on my mind is, first of all, I want to thank Al Levine, the Talking Machine, BPTV, and Dave Cable for allowing us to come here each and every Tuesday to do this. I'll be very, very quick. Just
Why?
wanted to run down. I know we'll talk about it throughout the show. I just wanted to we'll put the names out there. The Pittsburgh Steelers draft picks. Don't forget they lost a couple of picks this year because of the Josh Scobie trade.
Sure.
And they also for the Brandon Boykin ordeal. But in the first round, they got Bullet, Artie Burns. Second round, they got Sean Davis from Maryland. Third round, Javon Hargrove.
The Gravedigger.
The Gravedigger from
Guys
South
are too
Carolina
much. Yeah.
State.
Like Richie Hebner? No, I know. But thinking about Richie Hebner.
Fourth round, they got Gerald Hawkins out of LSU. No fifth round pick, but in the sixth round, they got a black man with a white name that I love is Travis Feeney. In sixth round, DeMarcus Ayers. I think he's still trying to finish a 40. Wide receiver with 4.7 speed. In the last round, and you guys got to help me on this one.
Okay.
I love the middle linebacker from Temple, but I have a hard time with some white names. First name is Tyler, got that, and his last name is spelled Matakevich.
Kataviska.
There you go.
Okay,
And he's going to be a fan favorite. He's a
Hey, I have to do
tackling
an immediate
machine.
disclaimer. Smoking Jim was born in Monroeville, has many other problems with white, black, Hispanic, and all people that have names. And he also has something where he has short-term memory loss, so he just knows sweeties. And if he just says, hey, my man, it means he doesn't know who you are. So when he talks about just a white football player who he didn't recommend they take, or did you? What are the three guys that you recommended is what I want to know. You've talked about it on our show.
Well,
I want to give you credit. This is the first time since our show started that Smokin' Jim had that many picks for the Steelers, whether they like him or not.
second round pick, although I wanted him at cornerback for 7 years and then moved to safety. But Sean Davis, outstanding. Going to be great. the next Dick Night Train Lane. Third round pick from the traditional black college of South Carolina
What's his
State.
name? Can you
His
pronounce
name
it?
is Javon Hargrave.
He's a little weak.
Yeah.
Okay.
And in the 6th round pick,
Now, when the Steelers picked him, was Billings still on the board?
yeah, he had some injury problems, Billings.
Okay.
That's the reason why people were staying away from the Baylor guy. Should have been a first round pick. And in the 6th round, and because he had 4 shoulder surgeries, but I think he's as good as any linebacker. I've never had a higher grade on a player in any round in any
Really?
year. Was the black man with the white name, Travis Feeney. So you guys are going to love him. 4'3", 40, 40-inch vertical jump, and just a tackling machine. Outstanding.
We'll see in
6'4",
training camp.
235, just a freak of nature.
And I got to extend his. Normally, I don't extend what's on your mind. But he's given like D- as a grade each year. And I heard a rumor last night when I asked you that I had to check my hearing because you know my left ear, I'm deaf because of you. Can you please tell the fans and the new fans what your grade is up front here?
Solid C.
Okay.
Dude, you lost a plus?
Chip, that's why I wanted that. As Chip and I discussed.
We lost a plus, but I don't know what happened since then.
Oh,
Must have been on that free agency side.
no, you know what happened? He actually forgot who they drafted and their names. So he lost the plus because he goes, I know it was pretty good because 3 of my picks. But we got that clarified. He won't change again because that'll be what it'll be. Even if they don't even start any of them, they'll still be a C.
And on Fiction and Fact from Smoking Jim's Almanac, you'll find out why it's a C.
Good. Can't wait.
I was hoping that you'd do a combination because never do we get separation there. All right, thank you very much, Smoking
You're
Jim.
welcome,
Hope you
sir.
fans have learned something, that Smoking Jim is right once in a while, even if it sounds controversial or crazy or none of the above. All right. I'll do the promotion, but that's Olive Oil's Pizzeria. They're our sponsor. 412-831-1900. If you're watching the Buccos, keep watching us. Order the pizza. Watch Smoking Jim inhale it. And he also has the Italian hoagie. Thanks for the slices, Dee. She cut it up very nicely. Now, Ernie, introduce yourself. And I'm going to ask you, after you do that, will you please tell us what's on your mind today?
Okay, well, my name's Ernie Kushner, and I live in Wexford, Pennsylvania, and I actually came down here for the food. No, it was awesome food, though. What would you say you got it?
I'll say it again.
Say it again.
Olive Oil's Pizzeria at Hillcrest Shopping Center. You can't miss it. Call right now.
Call right now.
412-831-1900. Now you should memorize that now.
I will.
Get one to go home. Feed your family.
I think I know where I'm stopping on the way to get my wife dinner.
And I'll guide you there because it's only, I got here in 3 minutes.
You know the shortcuts.
Yes.
Yeah. You
Jim,
know.
it takes 18 minutes, but we're good. Ernie, officially, what's on your mind?
Well, I thought about what was on my mind, and I have a lot of stuff on my mind, but basically, as I was driving out here, I went through the city, and it kind of popped into me what's on my mind. It's like, how did I end up in Pittsburgh?
Perfect. Let's hear it.
I was from Akron, Ohio, played there at high school and was recruited out of there to go to Kansas State, and also at the same time I was recruited to go to Duquesne and Pitt. So I'm thinking, okay, I didn't come to Pitt or I didn't come to Duquesne, but here it is, you know, it was like 10 years after that fact, I ended up in Pittsburgh. I got a job working for Converse.
Tell them what year.
79, City of Champions.
Great
What
year.
happened then, Chip?
Great
This is
year.
why I brought him on.
We-
Listen to who he met when he got here.
So
Through his job,
through my
Converse.
job, Converse. Converse was big then. Now they're owned by Nike, and they do the Chuck Taylors. But at that time, they had football shoes. They had basketball shoes, obviously. And the first person I had to meet was Tony Parisi, the equipment manager of the Steelers. Came in, and I had to meet Chuck Knoll, and then I was to meet Chuck Tanner because they were in the same building.
What a
Rivers
trio.
State. You know, so here I come rolling into town, right? You know, my Pontiac Le Mans with vinyl white top, you know, bucket seats, living large. I'm all excited. They told me they're going to pay me $17,500 a year, give me a minivan and a $12,000 expense account. I'd have come for free, Al.
Really?
I'd have come to get that job. The
You're a
Converse
heck of a
job.
negotiator, just taking what they
I
gave
said
you.
they told me that they could probably get me to 21,000 in a little bit. I said just And then when I went to an apartment, it was $360 deposit up in Roslyn Farms and another $360 first month. I'm like, whoa, because I was paying $25 living with about 8 guys in a place in Manhattan, Kansas. So
You stepped up your game.
I stepped up my game, So anyway, I go into the locker room. I'd see Tony, and Tony says, hey, great to see you. I heard you were coming, and you're the new Converse guy. And Mike Lewis was the other former Duke basketball player that lived here that was working for Converse. And he introduced me. And then came Chuck Knoll. Chuck Knoll comes in. Now, he comes rolling in with it's minicamp. And he looked at me, and I looked at him, and I went, I think I'm not supposed to be here, because he gave me that look. And then he said, Tony, come here. He said, who is that guy? They went around the corner. He goes, well, that's the new Converse guy. Well, Chuck Knoll comes out going, how you doing? Is there anything I can get you? I thought, wow, and then we said our hellos, and then he said, let's go down and meet Chuck Tanner. So we go down to the Pirate locker room, which at Three Rivers, they were connected. It was one building. They played in the same place. And I walk in there, and there's Chuck Tanner, and Tony introduces me, and he says, I think you might know someone that he knows. And I says, well, my brother Art played for you when he was with the White Sox. And he goes, oh, you know how Chuck was, right?
Yes.
Oh, are you serious? Kidding me? I'm in his office now with a lounge.
I met him, so I understand that conversation.
And I got my feet crossed now. I'm having a beer, and I'm like, yeah, I'm part of the family, So
How long did that take you?
to what? Cross my legs?
Yeah.
It took
No,
me.
since you got asked on Meet Chuck and Chuck.
It was within about a half hour's time, and then a game was going on, and you want to go to the game, so, I just walked in and walked out and walked up and went right behind home plate and sat.
Wow.
And then as time went on, I had like a couple players that were already in Converse. Steelers had a lot of guys in Converse at the time. Lynn Swan was wearing them sometimes. You had John Kolb. I had Larry Brown. I mean, and here I am, supplying the shoes for them. So it was quite and you guys are talking about the draft and everything. Every year we'd look at who got drafted and where they came from,
Sure.
to try to get them in the product at that time. And you'd have these little contracts you signed. And so that's how I got here. And I covered Pitt, and I covered Duquesne. They were Converse. And I covered West Virginia with Gail Catlett. And then later on I moved into a regional position, which took me like to 5, 6, 7 states I worked in. So Pittsburgh was one of them. But coming here, really great city.
Thank you.
It's a sports
That was
city.
it was one of the greatest times in the Pittsburgh sports history.
It was.
I was a teenager, and it was a great time to be a Pittsburgh.
I
sports
almost
fan.
brought it, but Sports Illustrated had him on the cover. You've
Yeah.
seen that,
Yes.
I
Yeah,
had one of
Brad
them.
Bradshaw and
Stargell,
Stargell.
and it's a steel mill and everything. But it was, how blessed am I to come in here and get into that situation right away? And there were times,
Yes, you are.
over the years, basketball, the youth stuff. I was involved in. Anybody that had feet, the bottom of their legs, I was involved.
That's
with.
right.
Did you hit Gateway?
Yeah, I worked with
Okay,
Gateway. I knew
that's
Smith, over the time. And then I went to work for Adidas, so I was with them for 10 years, most recently. And so that was what was on my mind. Being here in Pittsburgh.
Ernie, thank you so much, because I was on your mind thinking what you're going to say, because you got so many photos. He has so many videos. He come to our Pittsburgh Sportsline show, and he brought about 20 photos, and you know how I play dictator. I told him bring up about 6.
Yeah, well, that's fine. My son watched the show. He's over in Australia playing basketball, and he loved it. He said, he watched. I sent him the links and everything, and he goes, Dad, you should have had them on the table. You're grabbing them out of the bag. I went,
Well, my thing, it was a little more dramatic.
dramatic. I said, it's a fun show. We were laughing about it. We were talking about it today. So.
And that's what we do. Thank you again for taking time out of your schedule, because
And
you're
thanks
organizing
and
everything.
thanks for letting me be here. This is awesome. This is what you're doing is awesome. Knowing that I'm an old radio and TV guy from college that I never got into, you're getting me in the business now.
There you go.
My ego's even expanded more. Anybody that knows me, can you please expand the ceiling right now?
And
It's
then
hard to do.
you also fed me. So my gosh.
You know what? We're going to carry on with this right now. Thank you very much. Chip Hayner, what's on your mind?
I'm going to break this up into 2 short segments.
No problem.
Okay. First thing, being that I missed last week for some dental surgery and everything, one of the things I wanted to bring up last week was the, have we finally heard the end of Deflategate? Tom Brady's suspension has been reinstated, and here's the thing, and I don't even understand why it had to go to an appeal to get the correct verdict, because the answer came out the way that it should have been. When they appealed this the first time, the judge was supposed to rule on whether or not the commissioner of football had the right to discipline the players,
Right.
which was a right that was granted to him by the players' union in the collective bargaining agreement.
Their last contract.
So when they went to the arbitrator, he didn't even bother touching on that issue. He went at the evidence as to whether or not Tom Brady deflated the balls. Well, that's not what the issue was, and that's not the reason why they were really suspending him. So now it goes to the a panel of arbitrators. They rule that yes, in fact, the commissioner does have the power, and the players' union gave him the power to do that. So now, they're extending Tom Brady's extension so that he can file an appeal. Like, where's he going to go now? The Supreme Court? And if the Supreme Court would waste 1/10 of a second trying to rule on this, it's a waste of everything. But that's all I got to say about that. It's just so ridiculous. Serve your 4 games, take your medicine, and get back to playing football. Next thing I want to touch on is right now the Penguins are in a very heated playoff series with the Washington Capitals. And the Capitals are probably the best team in hockey this year. Right now, the Penguins, I would have to say, are pretty close to being the second best team in hockey. I really feel that whoever comes out of this series could be a legitimate contender for the Stanley Cup. I won't say that until after the series is over, but the Penguins are showing a lot of promise. But here's one of the problems that I have with the NHL, not so much the Penguins or the Capitals. The NHL is trying to get national recognition, wants to get a national TV contract to get in the big money that the rest of the professional sports are. But they manage discipline in this league like a bunch of buffoons. You've got Brooks Orpik that nearly takes off Ole Matta's head, lays him flat on the ice. They give him a 3-game suspension. Okay, great. That was warranted. They took out one of our players. The only reason there was a 3-game suspension was because he knocked the guy into next week and he can't play. Okay, so last night Chris Letang does pretty much the same thing, launches himself into an opposing player, hits him in the head, targeted his head, okay, and he gets a 1-game suspension. There's why? To be honest with you, I'm a Penguin fan. I know we can't afford to have Chris Letang suspended for 3 games, but he should be smart enough to not make those kind of mistakes during the course of the game. If they're going to have a rule to remove headshots from the game, it's an automatic 3-game suspension. You hit anybody in the head for any reason, period, across the board. Doesn't matter if he's injured or if he's not injured. They need to make this happen. But how are they going to do that when they allow fighting in hockey and players will sit there and punch each other repeatedly in the head?
I like that.
And nobody gets suspended for that.
Right.
So if you want to really kind of get more interest in the game, be more consistent with your penalties, and get the rough stuff out. That's what's on my mind.
I like fighting in hockey.
You don't even watch hockey, but that's another
That's the
disclaimer.
reason why I don't, because they took the fighting out of it.
No,
They haven't
actually
taken it out yet, Jim. That shows you how much you watch it.
We're not going to check the veracity of Smoking Jim's statements. We used to have 2 sources that confirm it. I stopped at 17 because none of them could confirm that. He's a good man. He got a nice smile. Everybody loves him, including me. So I do appreciate it. Chip, to interrupt Smoking Jim on a rant that makes no sense, you couldn't have stated it any better, because I've been telling people about that. As long as you have the fighting, you're not worried about the brain concussions with the other players.
Every other sport is doing things to get that out of it. Professional football, that's a collision sport, and they're trying to get the head hits out of it. Hockey, they just don't.
Look at NBA. It's not a contact sport, but it's one of the toughest contact sports that's unofficial.
What is there to deter you from taking somebody's head off? There really isn't any.
I don't see any problems with boxers.
Soccer's starting to wear helmets now, too.
Well,
Really?
Yeah.
And Smoking Jim wasn't a boxer, as far as I can verify this. So however he was concussed was playing football. And you have to see that movie about that because I'm getting a little nervous about
Are
him.
you going to donate your brain?
Yeah.
CTE research.
There's a rumor,
Everything I got's going with me to heaven.
Chip, there's a rumor already that he donated. People can study his brain now. So I don't know where to go with that. So I'm going to try to go to what's on my mind.
Okay.
And hopefully Smoking Jim can interrupt me with some more wisdom.
There you go.
That's good.
First, we're going to do the official thank you, Olive Oils Pizzeria, 412-831-1900. Call Zach there, call Jay, call Dee. They're all great people. They made that great pizza and hoagies. And appreciate Frank, the owner, for what he does and being our sponsor. All right, now this will be the last time that you hear about the Designer Bag Bingo, the second annual Designer Bag Bingo. It's May 6th, $25 a ticket, 10-game bingo packet. They got Dooney and Burke, Coach, Fossil, Brahmin, MK, other ones I don't even know. Starts Friday night, 6 p.m., May 6th, and actually the doors are opening at 6:30. I'll be there at 6. 7 p.m. they start. The BP Community Center. You can get your tickets right in the library, front desk. Go see EV Hardware. My man, the legend, Andy Armrein. He'll be there selling raffle tickets with me. Last year we had over $1,200 for the winning raffle ticket. So donate early and stop donating
Donate
right
early.
before you win.
Donate often.
Now, we had a returning guest to our show, and I'm honored to have the first female kicker on the Bethel Park varsity football team. Kelsey Tischler sent me an email. She goes, could you promote this little thing we're doing, a 5K color run? Smoking Jim thought it's only for black people. So we did have to clarify that, because if you hear Smoking Jim on the show, you know he talks about this stuff. I don't care what color you are, if you're even an alien. So we had them clarify that they throw like chalk on you for the 5K. Yes, sir. Color run, Smoking Jim. They're going to give you a free ticket because they don't think you can walk 5K. It's $15 for a ticket. Starts at 9 a.m. You can run, walk, and I got something put in, crawl. And it starts at 9:30. All the proceeds benefit Shim. Smoking Jim could tell you more, but I don't know if he's able. It'll be at the Bethel Park High School, so it's not hard to find, and they'll be doing that May 15th, again, 9:30. It's a great thing to do. Now, on some of my other promotions, it gets a little lengthy. We're talking about the Bethel Park Community Foundation. I'm one of the trustees on the board. Do you have a local organization except for Smoking Jim Frazier promoting organizations in Bethel Park? You can receive, if you place, an ad or talk to them or call them up or go online, from $100 to $5,000 to help your organization and the kids and people in Bethel Park. That's the Bethel Park Community Foundation. Please contact them at bpcf.org. Check that out. Now, Smoking Jim and I are honored. We just got invited to do boxing at the Brownson House, their first boxing match in years, and it's on May 14th. 10 amateur bouts officially sanctioned. Starts at 6 o'clock till 10 p.m. Tickets are only $20. It goes for a good cause. Brownson House helps the kids and young athletes and young men and women to keep them off the streets and have a constructive life. And this is one way through the 10 amateur bouts that they do, and they train all the time. They were at our show last night. So check us out May 14th. It'll be a great time, and that's on 1415 Jefferson Avenue. Now, another friend of ours, he's done this a few times. What it is a fundraiser for the Roosevelt Park and Arnold. May 15th is a popular date. Look at the groups. One of our friend is Miss Freddie, a blues singer. She's awesome. The other bands are great. Guess what it costs? Smoking Jim. You remember?
$5.
My man can help with an advertisement. Only $5, May 15th. And this is all day long. They have it from 12 noon.
I'll be there.
You will not. And it goes all the way to 8 p.m. So it's great. Gates open 11:30. Just awesome. On Rankin Street and Dre Street, gates will be open. Check it out. They've been doing this at www.newkenarnoldsocial.com for years. It helps to keep the park alive and keep it going. Let's see what else I got. On a sad note, a good friend of ours, Jose Carabella, his sister had a beautiful daughter, and she committed suicide. So there's a Walk for Hope, and this is Sunday, May 8th. And what you didn't know, it's Mother's Day. So I do want to wish all the mothers some happiness, but this is on a sad note. And it's about suicide prevention organizations to help as many people as possible. You know, you just don't know. Nobody thought she was sad or wanted to kill herself. And it's a Walk for Hope. If you could get a close-up on this, Carl. And Carl's doing one heck of a job on these close-ups.
Thanks, Carl.
Outstanding.
Thanks, Carl.
Absolutely.
It's like riding a bike. Once you learn how, you never forget.
I know. I don't think he gets off of the bike, though. You got it? He got it. Thank you. Then the last one that I do, I always promote the Joey Fabus Cancer Foundation. This young man's a hero of mine. I like helping their family out and everything. Can you get that? And if you could donate $1, 50 cents, anything to them. He died of DIPG, which is a terrible form of cancer which affects your body and your system just starts to shut down. It's a death sentence. Within a year after they, figure out what happened or something's going on with you, their diagnosis is death, no cure. They've donated over $60,000 to a doctor that they donated his brain, and they're trying to find out what even causes it and what they can possibly do. So Joey Fabus Foundation, check it out. And we end the show every week, just so you know, we say, stay Joey strong. I'll do it early, stay Joey strong, and we'll end it at the end of the show. And thank you for watching. I do have something on my mind, only with all this stuff going on, it almost got lost in how people were giving up on the Penguins so many times, saying you got a third-string goaltender. You got a backup goaltender. We lose a game, we're not going anywhere. Well, guess what? We now have 2 wins. We only need 2 more wins to do it. I believe we are one of the best teams. Like Chip has said, Smokin' Jim joined the bandwagon very late in the season. I was on it early. I went out on a limb, as you know, Chip. I said they'd win the World Series at the beginning, and I was a little bit nervous, and I do not get nervous normally because it looked like part of the team wasn't there, and we changed the coach, which helped me because the NHL has a little shelf life of coaches less than 4 years. No matter how good they are, Hall of Famers, they rarely last with these players. Not that they're prima donnas, but they're tough guys, and they don't like to play for some coaches. Not that that happened here. Yeah, it did.
Yeah, it did.
So I can't deny it. But they're all playing now, and what happened is we do not have a power outage on our goal scoring. And Fleury is now back. He's okayed and cleared to play. I say stay with Murray right now, because when you have a young man playing like that, these are legendary times. He's earning a reputation and creating legendary status. So let's go Pens. I'm still on the bandwagon. Let's win it. Thank you. Now we're going to start some more segments here. Smokin' Jim Frazier. I'd love to hear some fiction and fact from Smokin' Jim's Almanac.
Thanks, Al Levine, the talking machine. That's going to be a hard one to follow. I tell you what, that teenage suicide prevention is near and dear to my heart, and we got to do something to stop it. And I'm working closely with people in that organization. But anyhow, also on a sad note, Steeler draft just dropped a grade level. I have to give it a D as I start to contemplate. First of all, here's one reason for it. The Pittsburgh Steelers going into the draft had only 3 cornerbacks under contract on the team. 3 cornerbacks. You're playing a lot of nickel and dime coverages now, so you had to draft at least 2, maybe 3 cornerbacks. They drafted 1. Cornerback that they draft, I had a 3rd-round grade on him. If anybody studies University of Miami films, which why would you do after Ray Lewis left? Ray Lewis, greatest football player of all time. but Artie was not a full-time starter. They rotated their cornerbacks in and out of the lineup. He did good when he was in there, but he only plays 65% of the snaps. He doesn't return kickoffs. He doesn't return punts. I felt like he'd have been there in the second round, even the third round. Of course, I wanted Sean Davis in the first round, so that's a knock again against the Steelers. But here's the reason why their draft went from what some people think of an A or a B, and I think a D, is because the Dallas Cowboys called the Pittsburgh Steelers after Cincinnati Bengals stabbed the Steelers in the back by taking William Jackson III, who the Steelers wanted. The Dallas Cowboys offered the Pittsburgh Steelers their 34th pick, which was a second-round pick, for the Pittsburgh Steelers' 25th pick. They also wanted the Pittsburgh Steelers' 7th-round pick. They were going to give the Pittsburgh Steelers their 6th-round pick, and Dallas offered their 1st-round pick for 2017. And the Pittsburgh Steelers was ready to sign off on it. Unfortunately, somebody from the Steeler organization, and keep your ears posted because I'm sure he'll have another job next year, sent in the card early. So they sent in the card on Bullet Artie Burns early. Once the card's in, you can be no trade, so look for somebody to lose their job because of that. Also, the Pittsburgh Steelers lost 2 draft picks. That got to slow you down because of Josh Scobie and because of Brandon Boykin. None of those guys are on the team. They traded for them, so they lost 2 draft picks. Also, the Steelers drafted a guy from LSU. Could be a good player, a left tackle, Hawkins, but he can only play really right tackle. He only runs a 40 and 5.32. And he's also not that strong. He only bench presses 225, 21 reps. And so they already have Gilbert at right tackle. So I thought that was a mistake. But lastly, next to last, they draft a black kid, punt returner out of Houston, 5'9", 190 pounds. Our nose guard can outrun him. He runs a 40 and 4.7. You can't play in this league that slow. They drafted him primarily to be special teams. He's not going to be the first one down on the field, and he's not going to do well there. And also, as you know, I've been fighting it for years. There's a lot of reverse discrimination in the National Football League. I'm against discrimination of all time, especially reverse discrimination. I'm still looking for the white cornerback. You cannot tell me there's not a white man on the planet that can't play cornerback in the National Football League. I fear that the tackling machine out of Temple, white middle linebacker who's good, had close to 500 career tackles. I want to see if the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to let a white man play middle linebacker in 2016, 2017. So that's why the Pittsburgh Steelers got a D grade for me, and that's fiction and fact from Smoking Jim's Almanac.
Smoking Jim, we got a lot of fiction there, my man. Because whatever were the facts went from C+ in the short conversation that I talked to you. So I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was the first steak you missed or it was the last steak that you had.
You know, the only problem with grading draft classes 3 days after the draft or 4 days, 5, whatever it may be, you know, you really don't know how the draft class is going to pan out, at least for a couple of years. You see what kind of, you know, the players these young men evolve into. And, you know, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, those 2 picks that we could not get because we traded for Josh Scobie and Brandon Boykins, we already know they ain't going to pan out. We ain't have them.
That is very interesting. And we'll talk more. If we have time for a Steelers segment, we'll talk some more because I'll ask some important questions of Smoking Jim. So hopefully I'll get the facts. I'm hopeful. Thank you, Smoking Jim.
But one last thing before I say this.
Okay.
I said before the draft, and I'm saying it now, the Steelers did not need this draft to win a Super Bowl. They're already a Super Bowl championship team next year with or without this draft. Congratulations.
Smoking
Super Bowl
Jim,
champs.
I'm glad you brought that up, but you sort of went ahead of what I was going to
Oh,
say.
my
but
fault.
That's all right. No problem.
You didn't bring me no peanuts this week.
Well, you forgot that money you were giving me. And the new tea is very delicious and fresh without peanuts. So you're welcome, buddy. Now, Ernie, we usually talk about some of the things we're doing. Now, I just wanted to ask you one thing and describe. You have all this film on all these famous people and yourself involved in, all the shoe business you've been involved and photos. How are you progressing with organizing that?
Well, first of all, back when
And tell them what I'm talking about, so it's not just the.
Well, when I was working for Converse, and I had been a radio and TV major in college, I came out, and when I always had a camera in my hand. If it wasn't the first, I started with a 45 millimeter camera that I bought from Howie, from Mr. Homa, who was the photographer for the Steelers. Unfortunately, he passed away, and then I ended up working with Mike Fabus. And I took pictures just constantly. Like the guys at Converse says, that guy's got a camera stuck in his head. I said, okay. So I'm out video, and now I get a regional job. I'm with Larry Bird, Dr. J, UB Brown. Here I'm just dropping names, maybe.
Yeah, but we're gonna see these because
We're
I'm
gonna
gonna
see
force it out.
See,
of
I
you.
would say this, that I'm one person that can tell a story, but I have video or pictures to back it up.
I don't.
And-
You went beyond fiction and fact
So, but the
for
thing,
Ernie Kushner.
and
My man, we got a new segment.
I didn't know why I was doing it at the time. I just captured all this stuff, and people look in the camera, go, "Quit! Turn the camera off! Turn the camera!" Whatever. And I'm like doing Larry Bird. We're on the golf course, and I'm like, "Oh, geez, what's he gonna say?" But he
you.
was too focused.
He said, "Thank you."
He said, "Thank you." Yeah, well, that was the day we played in the West Indies in some Converse tournament. I was there, and he liked me because I chipped one. I wasn't a very good golfer. It's a hard game, and I hit a goat.
Well, we're going to continue these
And
stories.
this poor goat started screaming.
We're gonna,
Anyway,
we're gonna hit. It wasn't a goat climbing a tree, I heard, but we'll go from that, and we're gonna build on this because we have more interesting and factual photos and videos from Ernie Kushner. So we will go deep into it. Thanks for teasing our friends and fans. We may partner up on some other shows, so we're going to do something like that because I sense there's some interest in it, my friend.
got a lot of good stuff. You'll be intrigued.
I told you he can talk more than me, so he's shut down now for a while, so appreciate it, Ernie. We got to go to, we're missing Chip's trivia time for 2 weeks. So I know it's going to be a long one.
No, it's not actually. It's
No,
not gonna be
let's go to Chip's
We got-
trivia time right now.
We got
please.
some segments to get through. We got Penguins. We got Pirates.
Yes.
We've got
You-
Steeler
you
draft.
got it.
Okay, but just I'd like to go over some historical facts from the wonderful game of baseball. They're going all the way back to 1939, May 2nd, 1939. Very significant day in baseball history. The Iron Horses
Sad.
streak ended. Lou Gehrig sat out the first game, his first missed game in 2,130 consecutive games. Wow. So, his was the case. The New York Yankees had a perfectly good first baseman. His name was Wally Pip. He sat down for one day, never got his job back. 2,130 days later, he got that done. Also, a little mention here to some two-sport athletes, and I didn't know that there were really two-sport athletes that predated Bo Jackson and Deion Sanders.
Yeah.
Yes, a couple of them. Two-sport players pitched in the fourth inning of a game at Fenway Park on April the 27th, 1963. Let's see here. Gene Conley of the Boston Celtics and Dave DeBusschere of the New York Knicks pitched for the Red Sox and the White Sox. Dave DeBusschere pitched for the White Sox in a 9-5 Boston victory. So long before there was Bo Knows and prime time, there was people that were doing it a little bit more quiet.
Sure.
That was before Converse.
Yeah. Well, no, yeah.
And didn't Dick Grote play two sports?
Well, Dick Grote played college basketball
At Duke.
for Duke, and then he ultimately ended up playing with the Pirates and the St. Louis Cardinals, and he actually won 2 World Series titles, one with the Pirates and one with the Cardinals.
Right.
As
No
well.
Globetrotters.
What's that?
No Globetrotters?
As far as I know, but I could be
We're
wrong.
talking facts.
Dick Groat.
Bob Feller struck out 11 Yankees on April the 30th, 1946 for the second of his 3 career no-hitters. Career no-hitters, you throw 3 career no-hitters in a baseball career, and that's pretty significant. The record's held by Nolan Ryan with 7.
Wow.
Nobody else is even close. Who was it? Alan's favorite pitcher, Sandy Koufax.
baby.
He
Yeah.
had 4.
Yeah.
He had 4, and the sad thing about him, if Tommy John surgery had existed at that time, who knows? He may have ended up with.
He wouldn't have had the
double or triple.
arthritis. He
Right.
wouldn't have had the arthritis.
They would have fixed
where-
the tendon in his elbow.
Yes.
He would have had a much longer career.
And Smoking Jim, here was his arm. Left-hand pitcher. He could hold him out straight for you.
Wow.
That's how short it
Going
became.
back to April 30th, 1961, and I remember this day very well, Jim. 6 home runs were hit by 2 of the greatest home run hitters of all time, both members of the 600 home run club. One of them
Willie?
ultimately made the 700 home run club. Willie Mays of the Giants hit 4 home runs, drove in 8 runs, and Hank Aaron hit 2 home runs for the Braves that day. So think about that. 6 home runs by 2 of the greatest home run hitters of all time.
On one day.
Steve Carlton on April 29th, 1981, became the 6th pitcher in Major League Baseball history to strike out 3,000 batters. He was the first left-hander to do it. Roger Clemens on April 29th, 1986, set the Major League record by striking out 20 batters in a 9-inning game. Jim, do the math, 27 outs in a game, he struck out 20. That's
good math.
that's good
9
math.
times 3.
Okay,
Minus 7.
we've always joked about the futility of the Pirates for the 20 years without going to the playoffs. Well,
Yes.
there's a team that does have an even more dubious distinction of futility. That was the Baltimore Orioles, and on April the 28th, 1988, they set an American League record by losing their 21st straight game, falling to the Minnesota Twins 4-2. The reason I bring that up because on April the 29th, the streak ended. They beat the White Sox 9-0, but that was a pretty hapless situation for a storied franchise.
Yeah.
The Baltimore Orioles won a number of world championships. The
Great
early
pitching.
70s, the early 80s, Cal Ripken, Earl Weaver, Frank Robinson, Brooks Robinson, the whole 9 yards. Let's see what else I got here. Cincinnati rookie Frank Robinson hit the first of his 586 home runs on April the 28th, 1956. And one last thing, something happened last year in Major League Baseball that has never happened before, and I don't know if this has happened in any professional sporting venue. But it is believed to be the first Major League game played without fans in attendance. This happened on April the 29th, 2015. The Baltimore Orioles, Chris Davis hit a 3-run homer in the first inning, and the Baltimore Orioles defeated the Chicago White Sox 8-2. And because of the riots in Baltimore, they had no fans in the stadium to
remember
watch the game. They broadcast the game, and could you just imagine being a player used to playing in front of 30 to 50,000 people and just sitting there and just solid quiet. That would have been more distracting than the noise.
without a
They
doubt.
still got paid.
Yeah.
Oh, of course they got paid.
Thanks,
No,
Empire.
because the Major League Baseball Union, they take care of their players, not like the NFLPA.
Well, let me just say, let's just say this. You talked about a lot of home runs, but you never mentioned Barry Bonds.
Oh, if he if he'd hit them legitimately, I would talk about him.
Wow. Hey, to add to that trivia about Nolan Ryan, his second no-hitter was in Detroit, and my brother caught the game.
Really?
Yeah, so he caught Nolan Ryan's second
Say your brother's name so then your son will hear his name in Australia.
He was pitching for the California Angels then? Is that correct?
Yeah, Art Kushner. Yeah, Art. He played for the Angels, and he caught the game. I've been to his house.
What an honor.
I even videoed his.
Tell me it ain't so.
I videoed his, like, he has these 2 catcher's gloves. He's I'll tell you the story some other time.
That would be great. Thanks for the teaser.
You've been to whose house?
But he has my brother's has all his memorabilia in there.
Wow.
He has everybody signed to hit the 600 home runs.
Nice.
And he has a story about Barry Bonds, which we'll save for another time too.
Sure.
You have an open
We got to
invite to
bring
come
you back. We got to
Uh,
bring you back.
when you're available, because you can't tease me. But I have some trivia that I wanted to tell Chip last week, and when he couldn't make it because he called me early, and you might know about it, you might not, but most people don't. There's only been one inside the park home run hit by a major league ball player, and he's local. 1956, in his second year, Roberto Clemente did it, and there was controversy back then because, as you know, there was issues black and white, etc., especially Hispanic, being a black Puerto Rican. Gentleman wrote an article about it.
With that.
Oh, he was a white gentleman, wrote this article. They thought it was unprofessional, too crazy. He ignored the third base coach trying to stop him. And Roberto made no problem, as you know. He was a great runner, great speed, great baseball sense. The only home run inside the park by a player is Roberto Clemente. It didn't get publicized. Somebody posted a little while ago. I posted it just this past week that I put out there because
I read
it's
that
rare.
story before. It's rare, and
You mean that's the only one ever?
No, it's the only one I believe that ended the game.
Yes.
Wow.
Oh,
it was
yeah,
a walk
okay.
off. It was a walk off inside the park home run.
Man.
Right.
And
And
then-
that's something that should have been promoted. In this day and age, you would have never heard the end of that.
Yes,
and I
yes,
wanted
sir.
to bring it out
Yes,
with
sir.
Chip because he always tells me as useless information.
Yes.
And I go, no, it's great trivia because look what I read. And I had heard about that before, but I saw the article because somebody had posted it again. So I said, I have to put it out there again and talk to Chip about that.
See, you were mentioning about Nolan Ryan, and I think that's absolutely fascinating that your brother caught his second no-hitter. I had some friends that played for the Pirates in the '80s, and I used to be able to get tickets behind home plate whenever the Astros would come into town. And even sitting behind home plate and watching him pitch, it was amazing at how fast
Yes.
the ball left his hand in the crack of the catcher's mitt when it hit his glove. Because he threw, even at 45 years old, he was throwing 103 miles
That's
an
like
hour.
my
And he
brother's,
holds
yeah.
the record for the fastest pitch ever thrown in a major league game. I think it was at 105.
My brother was saying he threw BBs.
Yeah.
That's what it looked like.
Yeah, oh yeah, and and when he was a young pitcher playing for the amazing Mets,
Right.
when he and Seaver were both real young, the batters couldn't even get comfortable in the batter's box because he was like the wild thing, Sometimes it would be up here, sometimes it would be. Once he learned how to pitch and got his control, he became
Same
an awesome
same
pitcher.
with Sandy Koufax.
Really?
Yeah, he was very wild.
And and here's another guy. For as much as he pitched, never had an arm problem. Never once had an arm problem. You know what they asked him? What did you do in between starts? He threw. That's what he did.
So he
He didn't
kept
rest
throwing.
his arm. He kept his arm strong.
Maybe
And they didn't try to
maybe
change.
steroids. They can check.
They didn't try to change his style either, like they do with players to make them cookie cutter pitchers, hitters, etc. They let them go with what they
I
had.
want to know something. If you ever watched Tom Seaver and watched Nolan Ryan's deliveries, you will see two of the most complete deliveries of anybody. They kept within themselves. They threw with the legs, not so much with their arm and their shoulder. And that's
That's
where
how
their
I
power-
was taught.
That's
My-
where their power and strength came from.
My cousin taught me that. And being in great shape would help you to throw, actually.
Really?
Yes. And we covered extra trivia time. We're limited to our last 10 minutes. We got to talk some buckos here. Cutchin's hitting home runs. The team's hitting home runs. They're not
Well,
winning all the games they should.
We everybody said that the Pirates need to come out the gate and they need to have a good April. Well, last year we were 12-10 coming out of April, and people said that the Pirates didn't have a good April. And actually, after the first 40 games of the year last year, we were 18-22. So this year we make it out of April with a 15-9 record. So
Yeah.
we've won 3 more games than we won the year before. Which had we won those 3 games last year, we win the division.
How's my Cubbies doing this year?
Yeah,
They're just like you predicted, not knowing baseball. You went with a front runner.
they're winning.
You don't know a thing about it in the suits that they wear going to different games.
They're
with
winning,
Joe
they're
Madden.
winning 2-0. They're winning 2-0 right now,
He
Jim.
still doesn't even know the manager, Joe Madden. And they actually wore very colorful
but,
suits.
But the Pirates are putting a real good product on. They've the additions they've made at first base with John Jaso. They've got Matt Joyce, who's got a nice stick coming off the bench.
Yeah.
Polanco is one of the league leaders in on-base percentage and the number of walks that he's gotten.
Chip, the other day I looked at the lineup. There was one batter in the starting lineup except for the pitcher not hitting 300.
Not hitting 300.
And it was McCutcheon.
The Pirates are leading the
Mr.
league in
April.
batting average and in on-base percentage, and right now the pitching staff has been a little bit of a roller coaster ride. The amazing thing is that the starting pitchers are pitching better now than they started this season, and the bullpen's been a little bit suspect. But these are things that they're going to work out. Jared Hughes just came back in off the injured list.
Yes.
He's their middle setup man, and they missed him dearly.
Is Cole gonna come around?
You know what? We're going to find out, Jim. He didn't
He's
have a
your
good
hero.
night last night,
Yeah.
And you were probably thinking he deserved to start on opening day, right?
Well, actually, he's such a deep thinker about it that he just likes the sound of Coltrane.
But the pitching staff that we've got
John?
going right now is not going to be the same pitching staff we have moving into August.
Oh, without a
I
doubt,
think there's
yeah.
going to be some additions. There's going to be some people called up. There's going to be some people that are on the staff right now that are going to be let go. But
And maybe a new starting pitcher will come out of nowhere. So
I
we will
don't
see.
think they're nowhere. We've got a couple of hot prospects that are
Well, I mean, in
getting
people's
closer and
minds,
closer. So.
in people's minds, like Smoking Jim there, since he's the catalyst for this.
He's in Indianapolis checking them out, right?
All right, well let's
A.
go Buccos. We got that covered, but I wanted to touch on the Steeler draft with Smoking Jim Frazier because I don't get worked up on the draft, good or bad. I like if they pick the best athlete and he plays sometime.
That day, Johannes Ward sent over some short.
Yeah, I don't want to
reads
hear
for us.
about that because you don't
Good.
like him. And don't be pumping him up now to get free food. So we don't want to hear that. But with the Steeler draft, I'm one of the exceptions. I don't get worked up about it because it's rare. I was talking to Chip earlier before we started that anybody starts. Now out of necessity, because they've been rebuilding for years and haven't replaced the star players,
Good point.
you need a couple players that can start. So that's why it's suspect when Smoking Jim likes these guys. When will they play? What is your thought about when rookies will play with the Steelers, the current Steelers? No matter who you pick, how are they going to break the lineup?
Well, the first round draft pick was a reach. He's raw. It's going to take him a little while. But the second round pick will start beginning minicamp. Sean Davis is as good. He reminds me.
Well, this is what I want to hear.
He reminds me. He'll be strong safety. Talk to Cornell Lake, putting him right at strong safety. Puts me in the mind of Cornell Lake with hands. You know,
Really?
Cornell Lake, probably the only thing kept him out of the Hall of Fame is probably he just didn't have hands. He was fast. He was strong. He could tackle. He could blitz. You know, Cornell Lake was a linebacker.
He
in
wasn't
college.
afraid. He wasn't
He
afraid
could
to
play-
take on the running back.
He could
Yeah,
play
anyone.
right. He could play cornerback as good as anybody.
Good point.
Woodson
He even
went down.
had to when Rod,
Yeah, when Rod went down.
Barry
he-
Sanders juked him out of his knee.
Yeah, exactly. And Cornell Lake had Ike Taylor hands, and but
That's usually why they're on defense.
yeah, Sean Davis will start immediately. at strong safety.
I got to
He
ask
good.
your opinion because I already know what your opinion is, but we got to
Say
get
it.
a couple chuckles here. This is for the comment. Well, how brilliant of a move was it for the Steelers not to take on the fifth-year option for Jarvis Jones?
Oh.
Are we going to see the swan song of Jarvis Jones? Is this going to motivate him to become an NFL outside linebacker?
Well, the brilliant move would have been never to draft a Jarvis.
Too late,
Too slow.
Smokey.
Yeah,
we're beyond that.
that ship sailed.
But beyond that, he's never going to be. He doesn't fit in the system. His best 40-yard dash time of all time for him was a high 4.8. He's a 4.9 guy that he just doesn't have that burst coming off at right outside linebacker. But the black man with the white name, Travis Feeney, will take care of all that.
Are we going to
That's
hear
the
this all
future.
year?
Yeah,
Okay.
we were all year long.
Okay.
But
Just checking.
the Steelers did the right thing. They were
Disclaimer,
smart
disclaimer.
because had they did that, they would have guaranteed him $8 million.
$8.5 million, yeah.
$8.5 in 2017.
And then, and
so
for
if he
3
got hurt,
sacks.
he was still,
Yeah, 3 sacks in the last
Yeah.
3 years. I
Yeah.
mean, that's, I just don't see it. Now, this could work in the Steelers' favor if by some act of God that he would by chance play way above his ability, then the Steelers win because they get a good year out of him. If but I haven't been very impressed with him. He's too upright. So he needs to get with Debo and learn how to use some leverage when he goes into those offensive linemen.
Well, them Akron, Ohio guys are just tough anyway. But the Steelers ought to get rid of Jarvis Too Slow Jones and his draft mate, Soft Michael Adams.
He's still on the roster?
Still on the roster. And they have not ruled out. I talked to Coach Munchak, and he don't like him, but he had to say the political thing. He says, we're hoping, because he is out all year with a back injury. That yellow streak that runs down the middle of it didn't help him at all. But they're hoping that he comes back healthy and can be a swing tackle. But in the 4th round, they drafted a swing tackle. So who knows?
Well, very interesting. That's our little Steelers segment. We've extended on a lot of things. We need a little Penguin talk here.
Looking for a white cornerback.
Well, Thank you, Smoking Jim.
But speaking to the Penguins,
with a black name.
Everybody's been really high on the Penguins, and I still, I have not fully bought in them. Not all in on them yet. I honestly feel that they make it past this round. I'm going to start becoming a believer, and I don't think for a moment that
I'm out of Kool-Aid. I'll get you some next week.
This series is anywhere close to being over. I honestly think that the Capitals are going to take this to take the Penguins apart tomorrow night. We've got our two best defensemen won't be playing. Letang out on suspension. Ollie Matas still seeing stars. I wasn't very impressed with Derek Pouliot playing for Mata last night.
Right.
And if you notice the third period, the Capitals seemed to take charge of the game. And
we were lucky.
The Capitals are a very, very good hockey team. And, this series, I have a feeling it's going to go 7 games. And when you get to the 7th game, it's flip a coin,
Right, and they are a very good team. The Capitals were the best team in the league this year. Look at the scoring, look at the size of their team, and look at the speed. So they have it all.
Well, and then they've got the monkey on their back because Ovechkin has never played on a championship team.
Right.
And everybody is comparing him to Crosby and their statistics and their careers. And the only thing Ovechkin doesn't have on his mantle is a Stanley Cup and a gold medal.
And he's not going to get it this year. That's what I tell you. He's not getting it. I understand your logic, but sometimes the emotion comes into sport because I'm a fan. And I see a lot of great things there. I'm hopeful that the young guys step up another notch because their speed is actually helping.
See, what the Penguins' big problem was the last couple of years was they would lose their cool. Somebody would get under their skin and they would go, they'd just lose their minds. Well, I think what you saw Letang do last night was a reference back to that because the Capitals are playing an extremely tough series. And it's hard to not retaliate when somebody keeps on cross-checking you, slashing you, taking dirty little jabs at you every time that the ref's got his head turned. And the Penguins can't afford to do that. They don't have a team that's built like that at all.
And the NHL has changed the speed and the forechecking they have. They can still win it doing that. They can't lower themselves to that gutter level and the street hockey type of play and garage hockey that Lemieux had talked about, and that's how it is. I mean, we're just about out of time. Smoking Jim, anything else you got to bring up?
No.
Ernie, anything you want to say before you go?
Enjoyed being here with you guys. I learned a lot tonight.
You know what? I can't wait to hear some of your stories.
And we are going to have you back on Tuesday nights if you can make it. Chip, thanks for catching us up on all the trivia and other insights on the Buccos and everybody else.
My pleasure.
Carl, thank you for the camera work. Devin, whatever you're doing, I don't see it, but it looks like a good show. We're just about winding down now. Thanks everybody in Bethel Park and the surrounding areas for watching us. Verizon 32 everywhere, Comcast 7. Enjoy the spring weather. I know today wasn't the best, but I want all of you to keep watching us. Stay tuned for our On Location show at Atrius PNC Park on Monday, and stay Joey strong.